Man, what is happening, my YouTube family? Of course, it is your boy B New. I'm coming at you on this Monday. And first and foremost, as always, want to send out positive vibrations and blessings to anybody who could be listening. Now, with all that being said, we know that the Los Angeles Lakers were in action again on yesterday at a home game, taking on none other than the New York Knicks, one of the most storied franchises in the NBA, even though they have had a lack of success for a mighty long time and haven't had actually a whole lot of success, but a great following because of the city of New York. But nonetheless, of course, we do know by this time that the Knicks did prevail against the Lakers by a final score of 112 to 108. And we can take a deep dive into this game. And I'm going to tell you what I typically like to do is, I analyze the game and I try to accurately detail who I feel is the blame or who should take the brunt of any loss, or also give credit to anybody who deserves the most credit in any wins. And I know a lot of people will say that I got ahead of myself on last show when I said that the Los Angeles Lakers were going to win the championship when LeBron James came back. And guess what? I still stand on it, and I still stand beside it, because there's still not one team in the Western Conference that frightens me if the Lakers can get into a 7-game series with that team. Because when you're in a 7-game series, it is a lot different than just playing a team a night here, a night there, because you are scouting and scoping for different teams and looking at scouting reports for different teams throughout the years. You play a different team on this night, a different team on this night, a different team on this night. You might play 3 or 4 different teams within the course of a week, whereas in the playoffs, you get locked in on one team. And then by the time you get to game 3 or 4, it's not too many more adjustments you can make, because the other team knows exactly what you want to do and you know exactly what they want to do. And now it's time for mano y mano. You understand what I'm saying? But I will go ahead and say this. To me, Anthony Davis could have played a lot better on yesterday, but Darvin Ham, to me, really got out-coached by Thibodeau on yesterday. And that's something to be expected, because we do know that Darvin Ham is a rookie head coach. And, of course, Thibodeau has been doing this for a mighty long time. And his defenses have always, even since his days of Chicago coaching, has always been known to have a great defense. And he came in and did kind of the opposite of what Toronto did against Anthony Davis as far as game planning, because on the game against Toronto, as you can see, they came at him from every which angle to deny him the ball in the post, fronting him in the post, not allowing him to get a lot of touches. And as soon as he touched it, came with the double team, just from every which way to make sure that Anthony Davis would pass out, and of course allowed other Lakers to beat you. And simply that was the case in Toronto, and Anthony Davis only took 8 shots. But on yesterday, Anthony Davis took 18 shots, but he was only 8 out of 18 for 44%. And biggest concern was from the free throw line. You have to be better than 1 out of 5 from the free throw line, especially in a lot of these are key situations. So when you have key situations such as this, you have to make sure that you are focused and you locked in. And Anthony Davis, he put a lot of blame of the game on himself on yesterday after the game. In his post-game presser, he said he did not play well. He took accountability for it. He actually, to me, did not play very well on the defensive end of the ball, because R.J. Barrett in the second half, he was quiet in the first half, but in the second, I think he only had 1 3-pointer, if I'm not mistaken, and that was with his back against the wall, a do-or-die 3, and he made it with 1 second on the shot clock on a particular possession that actually kind of charged them up and let them push through the rest of the game in order to get the victory. And I will say this, it's still no excuse for me, even with the loss and the lack of having a LeBron James out there. The Los Angeles Lakers, the new-look Lakers, currently constructed, still could have won that game. And the Knicks, we're not going to poo-poo over the Knicks. They are a good team. They had won 9 or 10 in a row, and then they lost 3 in a row, including the day before to the Los Angeles Clippers. So you would think that on the second night of a back-to-back, that the legs would start to wear on them, and that they would eventually, fall off and, fatigue maybe in the fourth quarter, and the Lakers could come in. But it was not to be. And I want to kind of touch back on what I was saying about Darvin Ham, because I just don't want to say he got out-coached and not give the reasons for him being out-coached. So the main reason that Darvin Ham was outcoached on yesterday was he kept Troy Brown in the game for 28 minutes. Troy Brown, who has been playing great as of late, has been really exceptional from the three-point line. I think I bragged on him last time. Hope I didn't jinx him. I think I said Troy Brown was like 14 out of 28 the past 2 or 3 games from three, which was like 50%. But yesterday, Troy Brown was 0 from 7 from 3. He only had 3 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, and he simply could not get it going, and he wasn't playing consistently as he had been on the defensive end. Just made a bonehead play in transition where Julius Randle was in transition going up for a basket. You fouled him and barely fouled him and allowed him to get the 3-point play. So I really don't know what was going on with Troy Brown on yesterday. But even on yesterday's show, I mentioned that we had to have some time to get Lonnie Walker into the game if need be, because he had been a starter at the beginning of the year. He was somebody who is more than capable of knocking down 3-point shots. He is somebody more than capable who is going to stay ready and be ready when you call upon him. So as a coach, Darvin Ham, sometimes you have to look down your bench and you say, you know what, Troy, nothing against you, baby. You've been playing good as of late. I have trust and confidence in you, but guess what? I'm calling Lonnie Walker number tonight just to give somebody else a chance, even if it was Max Christie, who's been playing exceptionally well on defense. Even if it was Max Christie, it would have been a good move. But Lonnie Walker got a DNP when Troy Brown was broke, jacking up 3 after 3, and these just weren't contested threes. The Lakers were running their offense superbly. They were running it quite well. However, they missed seemed like 1,000 open looks. So I don't understand why Troy Brown continued to miss open look after open look. And, Coach Ham didn't look down to the end of the bench and say, come on, Lonnie Walker, come in and see what you got, because I'm pretty sure he could have came in and he wouldn't have went over, because Lonnie Walker going to get his. That's one thing for sure. And then another mismanagement of the time to me is Troy Brown had 28 minutes when he was broke, and yet Austin Reeves only had 25 minutes. But if you look at Austin Reeves' numbers, he had 13 points, a rebound, 4 assists, which means he was getting other people involved. He shot 4 out of 6 for 67%. He was 1 out of 2 from 3. So imagine he shot 50% from 3, hitting 1 out of 2 of his 3-pointers. He could have had another 3-pointer, more 3-pointers, but those attempts went to Troy Brown. That could have been Austin Reeves open for that. And Austin Reeves is better as far as getting his own shot. He doesn't necessarily have to have someone else to create for him. He can create for himself. He can take people off the dribble. He can get to the basket. He makes a lot of finesse moves. He breaks some ankles out there at times. He's slickly athletic more than what you think. He doesn't have the greatest speed in the world, but he does have that hesitation, stop and go move, just capable of creating his own shot. And that's what you need. And he fights through on the defensive end. And then on top of that, you had Vanderbilt, who had 24 minutes, who wasn't giving you much yesterday because your boy Julius Randle was pretty much having his way, had like 18 points in the first quarter. And this is kind of showing you the lack of depth from the big man position after these trades, because there's no more Thomas Bryant, who really wasn't playing particularly well pick and roll defense anyway. So it's not like I miss him. But Mo Bamba hurting, getting that high ankle sprain, just bad luck again for the Lakers, because the Lakers could have really used that on yesterday. So when Anthony Davis comes out, who do you have as a big man? So the Lakers are going to struggle until LeBron James comes back on the front side of the court, because they don't have necessarily the size. They're going to struggle at times depending on the teams that they're matched up with. A team like the New York Knicks, because then they brought in Hartenstein or Frankenstein, whatever you want to call him, brought him into the game. And he really, a lot of people think he played some great pick and roll defense yesterday on Anthony Davis. But to me, it was more Dennis Schroeder always wanting the shot, and more so Anthony Davis not rolling hard enough on the pick and roll, man. You got to get down in there. And of course, LeBron James could have really been more effective in their pick and roll play, but I would have liked to see Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell get more action on that pick and roll, but they just simply could not get it going, because Dennis Schroeder, and I keep saying this, he looks to shoot on the pick and roll action, whereas Austin Reeves looked to pass on the pick and roll action. And Darvin Ham should have had them in the game a lot more together. I know he has to stagger somewhat, but you saw what was successful in the last games where you've been successful, and that is a combination of having Schroeder and Austin Reeves on the floor together, and if possible, D'Lo, if you do want to play that 3-guard lineup, because now you have 3 shooters you can spread the floor, and if they double team AD, that means AD going to have one-on-one, and if they do, then you're going to have capable shooters. Vanderbilt wasn't having a particularly good game. You know he can't spread the floor, and I'm starting to lean more towards when LeBron James comes back to have Vanderbilt move to the bench, have D'Lo as your starter. Austin Reeves, I keep saying, needs to start because Beasley did not play particularly well. I want to touch on that. I think he had 10 points, 2 rebounds, didn't have any assists. He rarely has an assist because when he catches it, he usually shoots it, but he was only 2 out of 8 from 3 at 25%. He has to do better than that. And I think at this point, Austin Reeves should just get the nod. I know he plays well with that bench unit, but if Austin Reeves got the nod, you wouldn't necessarily get into these situations. And then you'll see more D'Lo in with Austin Reeves. Then you have a backcourt who can really spread the floor, especially with D'Lo's lack of defensive prowess. Not saying he's a poor defender, but he's not Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder can really, I love Dennis Schroeder's effort on defense. He's always into the opposing point guard. He's all in on their hip. He gets around screens. He really fights through the screens tough without fouling. He plays good defense, but, he is going to be a bench player when LeBron comes back. So back to what I was saying about who the lineup should be, to me, is starting lineup should be D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves. Then you could keep Troy Brown in. That would be fine by me because I still believe in Troy Brown's ability to spread the floor and play good defense. He had an off night on yesterday. Then put LeBron at the 4, AD at the 5. And then you have Russell, who can spread the floor and hit threes. Austin Reeves, who can spread the floor and hit threes. Troy Brown, who can spread the floor and hit threes. LeBron James, who can spread the floor and hit threes. And AD, if he gets in a particular rhythm on that one night, he maybe could hit a 3, but his main thing could be in the post. And now you're surrounding him by shooters. So in the event they do want to double AD, they're going to make him pay for it. But at the same token, if LeBron James had been playing yesterday, we know it wouldn't have ended up like that because during stretch key moments in the game, LeBron James is going to find a way to force himself to the basket and be able to come up with points in clutch situations. And we did see on yesterday the boot has been removed from LeBron James. He was actually doing a little bit of dribbling around yesterday, just playing around. So I would imagine within the next week or 2, you are going to see LeBron James return. I expect the Lakers to still be in contention for the playoffs. Before I even get into that, I just want to, give a big shout out to D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell had 33 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists. So not only was he scoring, he was getting his teammates involved. He was one of the bright spots of the Lakers. He was a plus 14 on the floor. He was 6 out of 11 from 3. So like what I'm telling you, that's going to be key, just like a Kyrie Irving was with LeBron James. LeBron James has a point guard now who is a trusted shooter. You understand me? And why did D'Lo only have 35 minutes? He's young. It's 48 minutes in the game. He should have had 38 minutes. You have to find a way to get him in there sooner because then he can get more involved. And in the fourth quarter, they did begin to trap him and get the ball out of his hands. And, he alluded that there was a lack of chemistry, still development on some of the backdoor cuts and plays they need to make when opponents begin to trap him, especially when he's having good games. But see, that's something that you have a high IQ player in LeBron James once he returns, where they'll be able to communicate this out on the floor and be able to make the necessary adjustments. But I still can't get over the glaring factor that Darvin Ham did not put in Lonnie Walker. And I'm not just a huge fan of Lonnie Walker. I think he can play and is capable of playing. And I think given the rhythm and the amount of time, he could do just as good as Troy Brown on offensive end, maybe not on the defensive end. But on this particular night, Troy Brown didn't have it. You should have got Lonnie Walker into the game. So, the Lakers had 2 opportunities to go to 500. It's been over a year since they've been at 500 late in the season. And they had an opportunity last Friday against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They were unsuccessful in doing so. They had a chance last night. They failed, which would have put them like in the 8th seed, by the way, pretty much, I think, in the 8th, had they won, because instead of being 33 and 35, they would have been 34 and 34. And now it's like a 4-way tie for 9th place. But really, if the season started today, they would have been on the outside looking in because of the various tiebreakers. So They got a big contest against the Pelicans on tomorrow night. I look for them to take care of business. If I'm not mistaken, Brandon Ingram is still injured, trying to get back. So I think that's going to be a very winnable game for the Lakers. And even last time, they have a Vanderbilt now and somebody they can match up with. And what I do want to give shouts out to was Hachimura. Why did Hachimura only have 27 minutes on yesterday? He had 12 points, 3 rebounds, shot 56%. He was 5 out of 9. And he's more of a capable defender sometimes than Troy Brown. He has the size and the length. So you could have put him at the 3 spot at times, and you could have helped him maybe match up with Julius Randle. But going back to what I was saying about Mo Bamba being out, you could have had, another thing you could have did, had you had Mo Bamba, somebody with length, a center, you could have maybe had him in the game at the 5, put Anthony Davis at the 4, so maybe he could have did some of the guarding of Julius Randle. You rarely saw that matchup last night. Julius Randle was able to go off. You really couldn't put AD on him because then you wouldn't have really had anybody to play at the center position on the other end to stop Hartenstein. I'm not saying he's a big threat, but at the end of the day, you have to have that size in order to be able to stop that, and that's something that the Lakers do not have right now with the current injury to Mo Bamba. But with him being out for the rest of the season, if I'm not mistaken, the Lakers could pick up a few people on extended multiple 10-day contracts, and they maybe could go out and get somebody like a DeMarcus Cousins or something like that just to help fill that role until Mo Bamba comes back for that playoff push and that playoff run. So the Lakers' next games, I think, are some winnable games. They got the Pelicans, followed by the Houston Rockets. Then they're going to come home to Dallas. Not sure the status of Luka with the thigh injury and Kyrie with the foot injury, if they will even be available, because they'll have 5 games in a row at home. They got Dallas, then Orlando. These next 4 games are all very winnable. Houston, Dallas, Orlando, and the Pelicans are all very winnable games. Then you got the Suns, will be a tough matchup. I think the Lakers can still pull it off. The Suns don't have much of a bench right now. And, of course, they're lacking Kevin Durant with his ankle injury. But you have Aiden, and then you really don't have a lot of, like I said, Gabriel's just not big enough to come in. So you have to depend on AD to play the majority of the game against Aiden. And, that's not necessarily his forte because Aiden is much more of a paint player. So AD going to have to get down and get grimy. But then after that, you got OKC, which is a winnable game, even though, you hadn't had a lot of success with them this season, but still a very winnable game. Then you got Chicago at home, very winnable game. Then Chicago away, very winnable game. And then you got the Minnesota Timberwolves, who you lost to, but maybe by this time you can have the return of LeBron James. Now, I'll take a look at the landscape of the rest of the Western Conference, their upcoming schedule. You got Minnesota, who I think is going to have a very tough go of it in the next coming games. They got to go to Atlanta, then they got to go to Boston, then they got to go to Toronto. That's a tough 3-game road trip where I think they'll catch 3 L's in a row. Atlanta's playing great since they replaced the coach. Boston, you know what they're going to do. Toronto, we saw how well they played. If they can go after the same game plan as they played against the Lakers, then I think they could have some success. And they're a whole nother team at home, of course. Then they have to go to the Knicks. That's a tough 4-game East Coast trip. Then they have to go to the Knicks, and we know the Knicks are playing well. So Minnesota could lose the next 4 in a row. Then after that, they got to return home and play Golden State, Sacramento, and the Suns. So I wouldn't want to be in Minnesota's shoes right now because I'm going to say it one more time. Atlanta, Boston, Toronto, Knicks, Atlanta, Golden State, Sacramento, then the Suns. That's pretty tough. Now you look at Utah, who is right above the Lakers too. They got to go to Miami, Boston. They got Sacramento, then Portland, and the Bucks, then Boston again, and then the Suns. They got a tough go of it. Pelicans, I think, have it easier than all the teams that's in competition. The Pelicans, they got Houston twice, then the Spurs, then Charlotte. So I look for the Pelicans to probably make it, depending on, especially if B.I. come back. Then it toughens up a little bit because then they'll have the Clippers, Portland, Golden State, and Denver. So that will toughen up on those 4 games. But the next 4 should be very winnable games for them. Golden State, they pulled off a miraculous victory against the Bucks recently. They pulled off that, went to overtime and shouldn't have. I think Drew Holiday lost the ball out of bounds after Golden State missed a 3, gave them an opportunity to hit 3 and tie it up and take it to overtime. And ultimately, we know Golden State won. And that's the difference between Golden State and the Lakers. Lakers had an opportunity to go to 500, just like Golden State did, instead of Golden State falling below 500. They won the game and stayed 1 above 500. So, Golden State, they got a tough go at it too, though, because they haven't been playing particularly well on the road this season. As we know, they got to go to Phoenix. They got to go to the Clippers. They had to go to the Hawks. They got Memphis. They got Dallas. They got Philly. And they got the Pelicans and Minnesota, both who are fighting for their play-in lives. So Golden State does not have an easy go at it. The Clippers, I think, have a much easier go at it. They got OKC twice. They do got Golden State and Portland. And then they got Memphis again twice, though, at Memphis. So they have Memphis 2 games in a row at Memphis. So, we'll see. I think the Clippers are starting to get it together, even with Russell Westbrook. So we'll see how they do. But I still think the 6th seed is something the Lakers can get. I'm not backing away from my statement. I know you got pundits like even Shannon Sharp who lose hope quickly. Oh, we can't do this, we can't do that. But at the end of the day, I keep saying the Lakers have what it takes to constitute a championship contending team. And we'll talk more about that as we progress through the season, man. Thanks for joining me. If you haven't done so already, hit that like, hit that share, make any comments below. I'll do my best to respond. Hit that subscribe, especially hit that subscribe if you haven't done so, and that notification bell. And as always, man, this is your boy B New. I'm saying right on to the real, and much love to these haters. I'm out.